right, so we got our recording going. I'll let you do the introductions, Mark, and then I will go over and see if I can figure out how to get everybody unmuted.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Well, I see it's just a couple minutes after 3, so we'll go ahead and get started. And I guess you can all hear us, that Todd is going to be working on getting that unmuted to open up the microphone so that we can have a two-way dialogue during our presentation this afternoon. So good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Today we're going to have an introduction to the Mortgage Success Source Borrow Smart Analysis presentation, otherwise known as BSA. And BSA is a very powerful tool. And what it does is simplify and visually presents to your prospective customers the alternative borrowing and repayment strategies that they might use, thus helping to create clarity, which leads to more informed and earlier purchase decisions. My name is Mark Teteris. I'm the Vice President of Banking Solutions at Mortgage Success Source, and we're known as the nation's leading provider of mortgage industry solutions for customer acquisition and retention. Also joining on the call today is Scott Remite. Scott is in our office in Homedale, New Jersey, and is our BSA product expert. He'll be a resource for you along with the rest of our customer support team as you begin using the BSA software. We'll be posting all of our contact information for you at the end of the session. So before I start the presentation today, I do want to take a moment and acknowledge and thank Paul Lucan and also Jim Love for making today's event possible. Their hard work and commitment to provide these solutions to help professionals to grow their businesses really tells us that they're committed to your success, and this is a terrific point-of-sale technology that they're bringing to you. Today's presentation should run for less than 45 minutes, and after that will remain as long as needed to address any immediate questions that you might have. And now I'd like to introduce the founder and CEO of Kendall Todd Incorporated and the creator of the Borrow Smart Analysis software, who will take us through a 5,000-foot overview of this great tool. Todd Ballinger has 23 years' experience in the financial services industry. He founded 3 companies which closed over $2 billion in residential and commercial loans before being rolled into a NASDAQ IPO in 1999. Todd is considered an industry pioneer in the area of capital market and credit market convergence, and has published courses on lending and equity management currently approved for realtors, appraisers, builders, and lenders in over 42 states. Todd was a 2-time Inc. 500 winner, a 3-time KPMG Fast 50 winner, and the 1998 North Carolina Mortgage Lender of the Year. Todd graduated with a business degree from the University of North Carolina, and he's also the author of a book that's found in many financial advisors' offices today, Borrow Smart, Retire Rich. And so welcome Todd, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Hey, thanks, Mark, and again, thanks everyone at the company there for having us. We're excited about working with First Advantage Mortgage, and we're going to share with you what we think is a platform that can really, really dramatically improve your business. We have a saying, they're good loan officers, and we're going to make those good loan officers great. And if you're a great loan officer, and you know who you are, we're going to make you absolutely unbeatable. And with almost 18,000 active client plans in our system and over 4,000 users, we're learning every day how the top lenders in the country are using this to be more effective and really differentiate themselves on a day-to-day basis with their clients. I'm going to kind of do, again, a high-level overview. The program's called Borrow Smart, Repay Smart. And one of the things that I do now is I get a chance to work with a lot of financial institutions across the country. And they're all looking at the different challenges that you guys are faced with today as to how are they going to be more effective to do more with less in this changing environment. And the environment itself, and a big part of how it's changing, is that having been a lender myself since 1989, it used to be all about sales. How do you sell a new loan? And our only care as a salesperson was eligibility. Can I get this person approved or not if they want to do business with me? And now we're seeing that the lending business is really coming together much more like the financial services industry. You could actually say that the mortgage industry is becoming the financial planning industry. In that industry, there's suitability and eligibility. Eligibility is, can I get the loan approved? Suitability is making sure that I do the right things. I clearly communicate what needs to be communicated. I'm clear to the client with their options. I let them know what's available, and I help them understand the best solution for them. Many of the new Dodd-Frank and the CFPB directives specifically state things like the client must be better off than they were prior to meeting you. That's a core tenet of the CFPB's current statement. So that means if you're ever audited, or someone looks at you at that transaction that you put together, you want to be able to show them that this client is in fact better off because I came into their lives, not just I made a good commission. That's going to be critical going forward. So when we started looking at this platform, and this platform is something we developed for our 100-plus lenders back in the early 90s, and it was a very basic Windows-based platform. We've completely revamped it, and when you think about your business today, all right, you spend a lot of money to be in business. You have money that you spend for licensing and continuing education. You have money that you spend for marketing to get your company out there. You have tools and systems that you're investing in. There's training and events, and you've got all the experience, all the deals that you've done. Every loan you've ever done is part of your experience. All of that is simply an ante to be in the game, because without that, there's no real opportunity if a lead comes along. Once a lead comes along and you get that opportunity, for many people, the process is really all about the 1003 and getting them into the system. In other words, there's a focus on eligibility. And what we realize in our own company and working with literally hundreds and thousands of loan officers is that there's a big opportunity right here to dramatically increase your conversion rates. And I'm going to show you today a simple process that, whether you're actively engaged with the software or not, can actually help you dramatically increase your conversion rates, measurably by up to 70%. So what if you could get 70% of the leads that talk to you initially as prospects or even suspects actually in and doing business with you? And a big critical part of that for us was this concept of borrowing smart and repaying smart, and how do we communicate the value of our advice to consumers in a very visual way. You can say this, for some people, this is something they aspire to. Other people will say it's just simply something I have to do. But whether you're doing a presentation or not as part of your sales process, that is critical in the financial planning industry. And again, the lending industry is really becoming much more like the financial planning industry at all levels: compliance, regulatory, compensation reform, oversight, etc. So one of the things that we learn is math isn't money, and 9 out of 5 people don't understand numbers. So ask yourself, if you've had clients, you're sitting down with them and you start getting into the math and the numbers, and they get a little bit confused. They just simply know that they want to buy a house or they want to refinance. But yet people make decisions emotionally, but they act, they make decisions logically, but they act very emotionally. So you have to be able to answer those key questions. They are already there because of the emotional reason of wanting to save money or wanting to buy a home. But that logical part is still really, really critical. So what we're going to talk about here is how you can learn to develop a mindset and a skill set that will meet those needs in a very, very powerful way. The software is called Borrow Smart, Repay Smart for a couple of reasons. And I'm going to give you literally a basic entry-level overview of the software today. We'll role play, and we're going to get you guys into using it. And Mark and the gang will tell you more about how that's going to work. But as you play with the tool and you start to use it, you're going to realize that there are all kinds of opportunities that are going to unfold for you. And we'll share with you in future training events what some of the best in the industry are doing to develop new relationships in remote markets, to lock down large financial planning offices where all of those referrals are coming to them, and they're doing that using this system. Borrow Smart, Repay Smart. If you think about it, if you borrow $200,000 to buy a home today and you borrow smart, that would mean keeping your costs down, getting the right loan product, getting a low interest rate, right? But you know that you're going to pay back much more than $200,000. You may pay back $400,000 to $500,000 over 30 years. One of the things that we realize is that clients, when you talk to them about how to borrow smart and repay smart, the big savings is actually in how they repay over time. So we started realizing that when we showed them different strategies and ways to, when they're buying a house or refinancing their house, to pay off sooner, It completely eliminated our competition. We used to say we had the ultimate unfair advantage because we were showing people how to save literally hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime and how they were going to repay the mortgage. The commission we were making, the $1,000, $2,000, the $5,000, whatever that commission was, seemed insignificant when you're showing someone how to save $50,000 or $80,000 over the next 15, 20, or 30 years that they repay that mortgage. So we're going to talk about Borrowing Smart today, and in future installments, as you watch some of the training videos and you get more comfortable with the software, I'm going to encourage you to really look at the Repay Smart components, because that can really dramatically change the way your consumers view you and what you do for them. The tool itself is designed to be fast, easy, and accurate. Those are the three things that when we talk to loan officers, when we started redeveloping this platform 3 or 4 years ago, people say, oh, it needs to be fast. I need to be able to learn to use it quickly. It needs to be easy. I need to be able to handle, simple things and complicated things, but I still want to do it in an easy way. And it needs to be accurate. It needs to be something that I can feel confident is going to communicate to my clients what needs to be communicated. It needs to deliver clarity and confidence. And this is something that, having been in the business for 20 years and coaching, I coach about 40 loan officers across the country. Their average income is about $400,000, so these are very high-end producers. And one of the things that we've realized over the years is that a consumer who is clear is confident. And this is a simple formula, but I like to think of it as a magic formula. If your clients aren't taking action, it's because they're not confident, because confident people take action. If they're not confident, it's because they're not clear. And it's really that simple. If you're talking to a prospect on the phone who's talking to you and someone else, why would they do business with you? Is it because you have the lowest rate? It's really not, because they could be getting the lowest rate on the wrong product. They do business with you because it's clear to them that you're the person that inspires confidence in them, that they, in talking to you, want to do business with you. And when they're confident, they take action. If you've got a client that's right now not moving forward with a refinance or another transaction you have, I've had people after watching this go into the software, take what they were working on already, put a plan together for that client using the software and send it to them. And I've had people say, I just got a $3,800 commission on a refi where that client for 2 months has been on the fence. I sent them the presentation. They were clear about what we were doing for them in the savings, and immediately that became the confidence that they needed to move forward. So this is a critical concept for you guys to consider. Ultimately, you're trying to move your client to quick action. Now, I'm sure everyone on the call has been in the business for a different amount of time. I've been in the business for over 20 years. I've written books on the topic. I teach on it regularly. At the end of the day, what I want to try to do is make something that can be very complicated as simple as possible. And I'll use this example. If you guys saw this picture here, and I told you to draw it with a pen, and I gave you a couple of minutes to do it, my guess is you could get pretty close to it, but it wouldn't look quite this nice. And you'd have to put a lot of effort in it to make it look really great. This is a drawing that my 3-year-old daughter did, and she did it using something called a spirograph. Now, I had a spirograph when I was a kid. You probably had one. The right tool can make you look great, and it can also make it very easy. I can give her a pen and a spirograph, and she can do this in no time. But if you try to do it without the right tool, it's going to be very difficult. So when we go through and look at this tool, what I want you to think about is, how could this tool for me help me look really great for my clients and my prospects, and how at the same time can I make it very simple to engage with them in a fairly duplicatable, scalable, repeatable process. Now, here's the most important slide that we're going to cover today. Because if you're a loan officer and you've been out there in the business for a year or 10 years, okay, you always wonder, why do some clients engage so quickly and why do others not engage so quickly? And a lot of it has to do with clients don't know what to ask you. They rely on you in many cases to present the information to them, but in the back of their mind, there's some key questions they need to have answered. And this was part of a multi-year study that was done by the biggest real estate conglomerate in the U.S. They own Century 21, ERA, and Coldwell Banker. This group controls 1 of every 2 real estate transactions in the U.S. Imagine that. 1 of 2 real estate transactions, you've got control of either the sell or the listing side of that transaction. They have mortgage companies in almost 80% of those offices at the peak. But they were still getting around 11 to 18% conversion rates, and they wanted to get a higher conversion rate. Why are clients not converting with us? Why aren't they using the in-house lending services that we have? And they realized it wasn't the lending services. What it boiled down to was the effectiveness of the loan officer in answering critical questions. And they boiled it down to three critical questions. And again, you don't have to believe me. Faith is something that you have until there's a direct experience. So just consider this. If you're going to go buy a house or a motorcycle or a new TV, what's the first question that you ask yourself? Do I have the cash to do this? If it's a TV, you might say yes. You might put it on your credit card and pay it off over a couple of months. But do I have the cash right now? Most of the people that you're dealing with don't have the cash right now. So they have some cash, and they have to answer this question for themselves. Do I have the cash? Can I afford this now? The second question that they ask themselves is, if I don't have the cash to pay cash for this house and I borrow, can I handle the cash flow? Now that's on a purchase. If they're renting or they're refinancing, it's the same thing. If I'm renting, do I have the cash flow to buy this house? If I'm refinancing, what's happening to my cash flow? Is it getting better or worse? If I go from a 30 to a 15, my cash flow is going to get worse. If I go from a 30 at 6% to a 30 at 4%, my cash flow is going to improve. Now this may sound obvious, but what's critical about this is if you understand these questions and the way people are thinking, and you answer these questions consistently for your prospects, your consumers, your clients, your suspects, whoever you're talking to, you will start to see a dramatic shift in how quickly they take action with you. And the last question is actually the most difficult to answer, but it's critical. And that is, can I really afford this over time? Meaning, if I'm refinancing right now and I'm 48 months into a 30-year fix and I get a new 30-year fixed, I know that I can afford the closing costs. I know that I'm going to get a lower payment, but I just added 4 years to my mortgage. Is this really a better deal for me or not? Can I afford this? Can I afford to go from renting to buying a house? If I have a $400,000 house now and I'm buying a $500,000 house, can I afford that? That is the critical question that most loan officers do a pretty good job. They'll explain the cash with a good faith or a truth in lending or Excel spreadsheet. They'll explain the cash flow because they'll tell the client the new payment, and that's pretty simple math. If your payment's going from $800 to $700, you know you got $100 a month. But that next question, should I pay points or not? Should I go with a 15 versus a 30? Should I do an ARM or a fixed? All those questions have a lot more to do with what's the best decision for me over time. This is where most loan officers have a real difficult time answering that question clearly. And if you can get your client through all three of these, I can tell you that your conversion rates are going to go up dramatically. So we built a tool to do just that and a whole lot more. And I'm going to show it to you. And a couple of the things it's going to do for you is it's going to be easy for you to get started with because we've built a simple three-step process: manage, borrow, and present. And this is a real high overview. It's going to solve a problem of having multiple tools because you can do refinance, purchase scenarios, rent versus owns. You can do open house flyers. All of that can be generated right within the one tool. It's going to solve this sort of changing market conditions. Right now we're in a refinance business. That'll be the case for a while, and then we'll move into a purchase business as the dynamics start to change, and you have to respond to that. It's going to show you how to solve these math challenge questions by making it very simple. You can color code and see current liabilities and the alternatives that you're going to be able to provide for that client. And the most important thing I'm going to show you as we go through and do sort of a live demo or a couple of demos, because I want you to interact here and maybe ask some of the questions that you often get, and we'll go through and role play and show how the software can help you answer those questions. But in the software itself, the first question that we answer is the cash question. And we color code everything to make it easy for the client. Red we say is bad. That's cash flowing away from you as a customer. Green is good. That's cash flowing towards you. So I'm going to say, and I'm going to always compare in their current situation to these loan alternatives, and I'm going to be able to say, in this case with the 30-year fixed at either the 4 or the 4.5 rate, you're going to have positive $2,950 at closing, because you've got to get through that first question. Okay, well that sounds good. Well, what about the next question I have, cash flow? We're going to answer that question by comparing on a pre-tax or after-tax basis the difference in their monthly payments so that you can show them, are you better off? In both of these cases, cash flow-wise, you're better off by either $250 or $190 per month. So that's pretty exciting. I know that I'm going to get cash at closing, and this person's telling me that I'm going to have extra money in my pocket. Now the third question is, which of these is going to be the best for me over time, and is this worth me even doing it? So with the third area, you're going to be able to answer these wealth impact questions in a really cool way. We're going to compare their current payment today to what if they spent the same payment on these alternative scenarios, and you're going to be able to explain with one number what's a better solution for your client. In this case, the 30-year fixed at 4.5 and getting one thing, or doing a 4, he's going to save $26,912 over 7 years. So you'll have control over these assumptions, and with the client, or as you're building your case, you'll be able to show them, here's doing nothing. Stay with what you've got today, but if you go with my 30-year fixed, I'm going to save you $26,912. Oh, one more thing, you got 337 months to go on your mortgage. With the same monthly payment that you're paying today, I'm going to be able to show you that you can be paid off debt-free in 244 months. So you're going to eliminate those questions of, am I better off or not? And if you were this person, if I just took you through nothing but these 3 slides, and I could show you that I'm going to put cash in your pocket, your payment's going to improve, and you're going to save money over time, what objection would you have to moving forward, assuming that you can qualify? So all of these tools are here for you, and there are many other tools. There's calculators. We have 14 dynamic calculators that you can use for quick questions to create schedules or little things where you maybe want to solve for a missing payment. All of the branding is set up for you already, so you're going to have corporate branding that's got your company logo and color schemes, so that's all in place. You're going to be able to generate very cool, very dynamic reports for your clients. They can be as simple as a 1-page summary report, or as comprehensive as a 28-page presentation with amortization tables and charts, depending on what you feel comfortable wanting to show your client. But what you're going to find is when you sit down to present information in this way to the client is going to be impressed with the work that you've put in. But as we'll show you in a minute, I can build one of these reports in about 5 to 7 minutes. So I can show them their current liabilities, I can answer each of those key questions on savings, and I can show them what I'm proposing and why that's better. That's our sample default, what we call a 5-page plan, which is a cover plus 4 presentation pages. I can also, though, get into more advanced information. For example, we have these loan program matrices, which financial advisors love. It's like a Morningstar style sheet, but it's a perfect compliance tool here as well, because it really explains the product that you're recommending for the client. You can drill down. You got that engineer, that client that really wants to see how this is working. Well, then go ahead and add the AM tables to your presentation, and they're color coded, and they show the debt-free points and the points of payoff. Got a client who likes to see things graphically, then add the graphic pages and see the numbers plotted out on a graph so they can see their different debts and when they're paying off and when they're going to be debt-free today without you and when they're going to be debt-free with you. And a lot of people tell me just those 2 pages side by side have caused them to win a number of different commissions and opportunities, because they were able to show the client, again, here's where you are today, here's where I'm going to put you. Your freedom point is right here. It's going to be about 6-7 years sooner, and we're going to be saving you $267,000 over the life of your loan. That's a pretty powerful presentation. You can make it simple, use a 1-page or a 2-page summary, or you can build a dynamic report. I'll have to talk about this a little bit later, but this is sort of the dynamic of how the industry is shifting from being asset managers to liability managers, and I'll come back to that. But I really want to have some time, because we're at about 20 minutes here. I want to have some time to see, we'll go through a case study and then maybe look at answering some questions that you guys might have about the tools and the software and the capability of what you can do with this. And I've got your version of the software here loaded up so you can see what it's going to look like. We make releases almost every week, so we are constantly adding new features that are requested by our users to make the product more effective. So I'm going to hit, I'm trying to figure out if the mute was on your end, if you muted the phone there, Jim, or if the conference itself was muted. I'm going to hit *6 so I make sure that you're not muted on the conference I'm on.
This line is now muted.
Oh, okay, so
This line is now unmuted.
okay, so my line is unmuted, so maybe you guys muted on your end. So maybe if you want to open up the line on your end, what we can do is we can do a role play. I think there was a Tim Gilligan or a Jalligan that was going to do a role play with me on a case, and then we'll let you guys, maybe we'll do a role play and then let you ask some questions as we get into the software in more detail. Are you there, Tim?
Sounds like everybody is still muted. Are you able to see that everybody's on the line? They're on the demo on the web, but apparently we don't have the audio is muted somehow.
Well, that is strange because my line says that I am. Well, we're unmuted on our conference call. So I wonder because you dialed on the same number and I can hear you.
Yeah.
So that's a good sign. Let me stop for a second and maybe chat. Let's see if yeah, I see Tim is in the call there. That's who we're going to do the case with. Tim, is your audio not working? Did everyone? I'm wondering if I just want to make sure everyone's got the right on the same line that we're on. Everyone dial into 218-548-1865. I would assume that everyone's got to be on that number or they wouldn't be hearing us.
Right.
So let's see. All right, we're going to figure this out. We're here. We're muted. I can hear you. We're unmuted here. You just can't hear us. That makes no sense to me because I use this line all the time and I never mute it. I'm stumped because when I hit the *6, it says the line is unmuted. Well, I tell you what, we're going to just instead of doing a line, well, I'm just going to go through and since you guys can hear us and we can't hear you, and I have no earthly idea why, I'm going to go through and just do.
I can be the customer if you want to go ahead and role play.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Why don't we just do a role play? And I tell you what, since the chat is working, if you guys will use the public chat and just ask questions in the public chat, and then what we'll do is I'll go through right now with Mark, and we'll do a live case to show you some of the features in the software, and then we'll come back over here and we'll see what questions that you guys may have. So let me share the desktop back out. And let's look at the software. So the software itself, when you first log in, it's going to look something like this. You'll have a couple of sample plans logged in. You'll have your company logo up here, and you'll notice it's a very simple interface. There's presentations here, and there's a three-step process: manage, borrow, and present. Okay? So this is where I create a new client. So I'm going to pretend like Mark is, we'll say he's refinancing, and I'll just click Create a New Client Plan. And you'll notice the software is going to give me some additional stuff now. And this is our first tab. This is our Manage tab. And everything that I need for the Manage tab is right here. And it's all WYSIWYG, which means what you see is what you get. So you'll notice as I change something that things change. For example, it sets up a refinance by default. But let's say that I knew I wanted to create an open house flyer instead. With one click, you'll notice everything just changed, and I have all the information I need to create an open house flyer. So the software should be very intuitive for you. So I got a refinance here, and I'll call this First AM Sample. And you'll notice as I'm doing that above, you see what's happening? It's starting to highlight. These are my 10 most recent plans that I've been working on. And all the plans that I've ever done are over here in my list. So I can search for them. I can pick a plan out. You can have multiple plans for the same client, which people love. They can do a purchase plan, and if a client comes back a year later refinance, you can open that plan up and just copy it and create a new plan. But I'm going to say this is a refinance plan. let's say that I have a referral partner associated with this, that this refinance came in from one of my top financial advisors, Gordon Harwell, and now I can assign that plan to Gordon. I can see that he's already sent me 2 loans in March, and here's all the contact information, and I can shrink him up, but that tracks the plan and the activity, allows me to co-brand with that partner as well as communicate back and forth with that specific partner. Now I've got my client information. Everything over here really is optional. There's only 4 tabs that I have to complete or that I should complete for this, so I'm going to go through here and put in the Mark Tetris, and Mark will say your annual income is $100,000, and we'll say you're in a 30% state and federal bracket. And whenever you see one of these things, guys, a little calculator or a little button here, if you click on it, it's just there to help you. So this is going to pull up the state, the current federal tax brackets for 2012, and you can actually click the state tax rates, and it'll open up another window that has all of the state tax rates by individual state. So that's just a help for you if you're not sure what to put in. And I'm going to put in Mark at gmail.com. So that's really it. You only need these 4 fields here initially. These are optional kind of CRM type fields if you'd like to put some additional information in. But I like to keep it down and dirty initially when I'm talking to a client or a prospect. It's a refi. I put in Mark's basic information, and now I'm going to get to the question of, Mark, tell me a little bit about your current situation. You have a mortgage today?
I do.
All right, let's add a liability. We'll call that a mortgage. And then I want to put in the details for this mortgage. So tell me a little bit about the property. What's your property worth today?
Oh gosh, today I think it's worth probably about $250,000.
All right, $250,000. It's your primary residence. And what's your current mortgage today? What product do you have on it today?
It's just a regular fixed rate 30-year mortgage.
Great. Now again, just to point out, guys, as I'm doing this, what if he said he had a 7-year ARM? You'll notice if I do that, I can actually put in all the original caps and adjustments, and when I'm doing my comparison later, it's going to know when to start adjusting his rate up or down in the simulation. But I don't need that because it's a 30, so we always just present the information that might be relevant. Who's that with now, Mark? What lender do you have?
Yeah, it's Bank of America.
Okay. And what was the original loan amount? Do you know?
Let's see. When I took it out, it was $200,000.
$200,000. All right, great. And about when did you take that loan out?
It was December of 2009.
All right, so 2009. And interest rate on it?
It was 6 1/8.
2.5. Great. And the current balance?
Look at my statement here. It looks like $194,500.
Great. Okay. So since it's a refinance, we know that your tax and insurance are going to be the same. So we'll just kind of leave that off. If you guys want to put all that in there, you can. We put it here for you to do that. But I tend on refinances to know that's just going to be a pass through unless something's changing, such as maybe they have MI and stuff. Then I would want to put that on here, obviously, because that might be falling off. So I click the Save button. Now I'm just going to do a simple refinance scenario initially, but one of the big differences in this platform is that you're able to do an unlimited number of different liabilities. I can add cars, autos, credit cards. I can really do a full comprehensive liability management plan for this client. But we'll start off with just a simple refinance. Now this is probably one of the most important boxes on the software, and it's not because it's some important box, but because of what it represents. I found in 20 years of originating and working with consumers that most people don't know necessarily why they're doing the transaction. And what I mean by that is if you say, Mark, tell me why you're refinancing your house.
I understand interest rates are low, so I'd like to lower my interest rate.
Awesome. So if you could lower your interest rate, what do you think that would do for you?
It would make my cost of owning the house less.
Cool. So it would save you some cash flow and maybe some interest. And if you freed up some cash flow, what do you think you'd do with it? Do you have something that you're focused on now?
Well, I have two things actually. I got to finish paying for college, which I still have to do a little bit of that for my kid, and then I want to start getting the house paid off. So when I'm ready to retire, I can do that.
All right.
Sell the
So
house and want to put into my retirement home.
awesome. So if you could free up some cash flow, you could save for college, you get the house paid off faster. Is there an amount that you've thought about? I mean, where you say, is it really worth it to me if I couldn't save at least, X dollars a month?
No, I don't. I don't have anything. I hadn't thought about that.
Okay. So
I just know interest rates are lower.
just want to get lower. So this is really critical. This is a make or break for you in terms of an opportunity. If a client isn't clear on what they're doing and why they're doing it, and I will tell you, most of them aren't. They don't know whether you're really doing a great job for them or not. So I always ask clients why they were buying a house, why they were refinancing, and you want to get as specific as you can. So it's to free up cash flow. Find out the reason. What are they looking to do with that cash flow? Because now I'm in alignment with them. If I know that they're freeing up cash flow to save for college or their house, I can talk about things in that context. If I save Mark $200 to $250 a month, we can say, so Mark, if you had $250 a month in savings, how much would you allocate towards the house? How much would you allocate towards, say, college funding? I mean, we're now working together as a team. It's a simple concept, but it'll have a huge shift in how your consumers view you when they're talking to you. And this is my memory box to remind me as a trigger that I want to ask this question. Are there any other key kind of interests that you have in this transaction, Mark? Is there any cash that you need to take out of the property or anything you want to avoid in terms of products or other things?
No, that's not I can think of.
Great. So if we could free up some cash flow for college and get your house paid off faster, do you think this is something you'd want to do?
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
All right. Again, I'm just sharing with you from my experience, and I've originated, close to $1 billion in mortgage loans. That if you ask that question and people say, "No, I'm good," then from here on it's just simply making the presentation. And for many consumers, if they say, "Well, maybe my brother-in-law's, Wells Fargo," I want to know that sooner before I spend a lot of time here, right? I don't want to spill all my candy in the lobby if I'm trying to get to the third floor of the office building. So I feel confident now. I'm excited. Mark's told me he wants to free up cash flow to save for college, get his house paid off faster. There's nothing else that he's concerned about. That I'm good to go. There's not much here, guys. It's just about 12 fields on the page, and you only need to fill out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 fields. And you've gotten this page done. You can do that in 1 minute to 2 minutes talking to a client on the phone. But there's a lot to the way, remember the Spirograph picture, if you follow this process we've set up for you, you're going to start to see some real cool things happen. So when I click the Borrow tab, look what the software's done. It's already gone through and looked at his current situation, and it's already started simulating some possible scenarios for this client. So it's already pre-populated 2 of the 3 alternatives to say, these are the kinds of things for this type of a person based on the few questions that we've answered that they might look at, a 7-year ARM and a 30-year fixed. So I might say to Mark here, Mark, have you thought about an ARM at all, or are you pretty much set on a 30-year fixed?
Well, I think I'm pretty set on not having to have any kind of risk.
Okay.
I'm going to be in the house for another 14 years, and so that's when I'm going to retire, and then I don't care. But I need to know that I'm not going to have any big payment increases.
Great. So you're thinking that in a perfect world, you maybe pay this house off in the next 15 years?
Yeah, or get the balance down as far as I can anyway.
Okay. Why don't we look at this? Let's look at a 30-year fixed. This is just a title here that you can use, guys, for your presentation. Let's look at a 15 and a 30 just to see how that works. So these are just titles, and then the product is right here, and all the products you have available will be there for you. So I got a 15-year fix. You're currently around 77.8% LTV, and this is pulling in the average national rate. So we can work with you guys in the future on pulling live rates and stuff, but for now it's going to put in the national average default for those products, and then you can go here and override them with whatever your current rate is. So maybe today you're offering a 3.5 for this client. So notice there's not a lot of fields to fill out and how quick it is. Now I'm going to compare it to a 30-year fixed, and let's just say that's going to be at 4. So guys, what this is a scratch box. Up here is where I can set up my programs. And notice below, everything is WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. If Mark says, you know, I'm not interested in the 15 and I want to get rid of that, all I have to do is shrink that up out of this, in the scratch box, and now it's gone. I'm only going to compare this current and the 30. If he says, you know, I would be interested in a 7-year ARM, maybe just to at least look at it, then I can actually expand this alternative here, and I can go through and create a 7-year ARM as well. And you're going to see that 7-year ARM show up and appear as an alternative for him as well. So you're going to be able to very quickly find that if you're doing this live, and more of our customers are telling us that they have so much fun having the conversation with a client and going through it this way, that they're doing these presentations live. I'm going to share with you, a key aspect of this tool in a minute with the desktop sharing. The tool that we're using right now for this meeting is built into your software. You have the ability to share desktop with your client no matter where they are, anywhere in the United States. Not only one client, but a husband and a wife in 2 different offices and a realtor that's across town. They can all be sharing desktop and watching you do this live, just like you're watching me here in North Carolina. And this desktop sharing is built in, and it's going to really be something that can help you with growing and expanding your market. So when I click 7-year ARM for that product, I can just actually click duplicate if I want to be quick and easy. It'll bring all this stuff down, and then I'll just go over here and click the 7-year ARM, and it's going to pull in 3%, and I like that. So notice what's happening. I'm now creating a comparison of the current and the 30 and the 7 side by side. So I'm going to keep this real simple. I'm going to start off with just the 30, so I can create it and shrink it back. And look what we do. We're answering the 3 key questions. Question 1, does this make sense right now? So let's say that I think this is going to cost Mark about $2,000 in closing costs, and I put that in, and I can say, Mark, you got $2,000 in closing costs here. These numbers are red, so that's going to be out of pocket. Is that something you're comfortable with, or would you prefer not to have any out-of-pocket expenses for this transaction?
Yeah, no, roll it in. I just want it to zero out.
Okay, so all I have to do, guys, I come up here to 194.6. I go 196.5. Just add the 2,000 in, and notice what happens. You got about 2,020 now. 2,000 coming back. So he's got about $20. How's that? Can you walk out of the closing table with, walk to the table with around $20 or so? I tell you what. Why don't we do this?
Yeah,
Let's
I can swing it.
just take it 197. That'll give us a cushion, and maybe you're walking away with $400 or $500. How does that sound?
Beautiful.
So you got the LTV. So the first question here, Mark, is he on base with me? Does it make sense now? Absolutely. Now let's look at the cash flow. Cash flow is green. So that means we got positive cash flow of $274 per month. So Mark's payment's going from $1,215 to $941. That's giving him an extra $274 a month in freed up cash flow. So Mark, how does that sound? Does that seem like something that's sort of in the realm of exciting for you?
Yeah, that's looking good.
Okay, so far what I know, we got you got about $475 coming in pocket. Your loan amount went up, so we're going from $194.5 to $197, but your payment's gone down. Even though we've refinanced those closing costs in, it's gone down by $274 a month. Now you mentioned wanting to maybe pay this thing off early. So the last question a lot of my clients have is, does this make sense now? So you're spending $12, $15, $22 a month. That's what you're spending right now. And if you were to continue to spend the same amount, $12, $15, $22 a month, that means you're comparing apples to apples here. Do nothing and spend $12, $15, $22, or refinance and spend $12, $15, $22. What I'm really suggesting is that you spend $941 a month that you have to spend because we've reduced your payment, and the extra $274 that you've got available, you could repay that towards your mortgage, and that would help you pay it off sooner. How much sooner? Well, if you look down here, you have 334 months to go, Mark. If you refinance into this new 30 at the lower rate, with the same monthly payment, you'd be debt-free in 234 months. We're taking 100 months off of your mortgage. That's going to save you. Why don't we go out, let's see, go out to 30 years here.
Okay.
Let's go out 30
I'm
years.
interested in 14 years, so it matches my retirement.
14. Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's go out 14 years. You're retiring in 14 years. Let's see how that looks. So over 14 years between now and retirement, this is going to save you $64,559. Now, going into retirement, if you want to go ahead and pay that mortgage off then, you got to write a check for $71,846. If you don't do this, you're going to be writing a check for $135,000 to pay off the mortgage in 14 years. So basically, Mark, I can put you into this transaction with little out of pocket, free up about $274 a month in cash flow, and it's going to save you about $64,559 net over 14 years. Now, I'm doing this with Mark live. I could be doing this in my office while he's sitting there looking at the monitor. I could be doing this via desktop sharing. Or if I'm just creating this presentation for Mark, then all I'm going to do is go to the last tab here, Manage, Borrow, Present. So Manage is where I set up my, what kind of scenario is it? Borrow is where I do all my analytics. And then Present is where I create my presentation for Mark. So let's say that Mark and I talked on the phone, and I go and I create this. I can create a simple 2-page plan for Mark. I can create an 8 to 10 page. These are just defaults that we've created for you. Or you can go and build your own and say, I want a cover, introduction, I want a 5-page summary, and I want a loan program matrix. That's what I want to put on there. We even have educational materials you can attach. So if Mark has a low credit score, and you notice that, I can click the credit score box. We're going to add that credit scoring report here. And then I have 4 different ways that I can present this information to Mark. I can present it as a PDF. So I'll click the As a PDF button, and it'll take about 15 seconds to go in, pull all of his information together, and build a report. And then it's going to open that report up in Adobe Reader, and you're going to be able to email that report to your client or do whatever you'd like to do to get that out to him. So while that report's building, I can publish this to a web page. So here it is. So this is what it looks like. It's going to come in, have your information on it. I don't know where the graphic went there, but it'll have a company graphic, your logo, your color scheme. It has the client name and all your information. It'll have your overview stuff, disclosures and objectives. It'll have Mark's current liabilities. It'll go through each of the scenarios, and you could have 4 scenarios side by side here, or just 2, depending on how you want to present it. This shows the cash flow. This shows the repaying savings and the payoff dates over time. This shows what you're proposing. The loan program matrix, because I chose that. I click credit scoring and wealth, so it's going to go ahead and put a nice little ebook here on credit scoring and wealth for Mark. It'll help him with his credit scoring. So again, I built this just in a matter of seconds, and it makes me look great. It lets the client know that I'm really providing a ton of value. If I click as a web PDF, it's going to build this and publish this to the web and give you a link so that you can send a link to that client to view that plan online. I can publish it to the web with a secure login and password. It'll take his email and a password that I set, and he can log into the site and view it online. That's for people who want to view their stuff securely. Or I can do it as a live demo. So a live demo is what we're doing right now. With one click, I can open up, I can share my desktop, and I can begin presenting to anyone that I share my link with via the web, and they can see what I'm doing and see it in real time. As a best practice, we got a lot of loan officers that are, when the client calls or a prospect calls shopping rates or thinking about buying a home, he'll say, are you at a computer now? Great, let me send you a link, and while we're talking, I want you to click on that link so that you can see what I say. And it's that simple. And then they click the link, they're now watching the screen as you are, and you begin your conversation with the client. Again, you completely eliminate your competition because you have such an unfair advantage in how clearly you're able to communicate and answer the key questions that they have. So it's manage, borrow, present. You got other options here that you'll learn more about, but that's the basics, and there's a lot more comprehensive analytics that are available to you. But again, I encourage you to get started, play with the basics first, and you'll learn about some of the more comprehensive features. So let me do this because we're about 45 minutes here, and I want to spend as much time as you want answering questions that you have about maybe how do you do certain things or what can the software do. So let me hit the stop button on the desktop sharing, and let me go over to the chat. And if you guys would, just in the chat box, you'll see a public chat box down there. If you would go in and chat any questions that you have, since our audio line isn't working, and I'll see if I can answer your questions. So you should be able just to click the public chat and type it in there and hit that little gray box there, and it'll bring the question right in for me. No questions. I either did a really good job or a really bad job. You never know when there's no questions. Let's see. All right, I see a chat button. Paul mentioned that on the purchase, it appeared to compare a purchase loan with their old loan. Why? And can you turn that off? Seems like you'd want to compare new loans, not anything to the old. You can absolutely. So, public chat is disabled. Man, I tell you, I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. So private chat is working. All right. Well, Tim, maybe you can get any questions and chat them in here since it's working for you. Sorry about the tech things. All right. Let me share desktop. So if this was a purchase, let me just kind of pull up a sample purchase here. So like here's a debt consolidation purchase. So someone's buying a house, and you'll notice what changed. I click purchase. It asked me for contract price and some other details. So I put in the client has a mortgage today, and they have an auto, and they have 3 credit cards. You choose whether you want to add these or not into the mix for comparison purposes. And then when you go to the borrow page, I can benchmark off of my current liabilities and say, look, you're currently borrowing $185,380 and you're currently spending $21,228, and we're going to look at a new 30-year fixed at $212 to buy this new property. You can decide if you want to turn these things on or off, but again, everything is what you see is what you get. Let's just say I don't want to compare any of the current liabilities. I just want to compare a 30 and a 15, and let's just say there's a competitor out there. So notice what I'm doing now. I'm able to go in here and just compare their 30-year fixed today with a 15, and maybe I compare a competitor. I can compare just loans side by side, and I can leave the current liabilities off completely if you want to. So you can choose to compare an old loan to a new loan, or a new loan to a new loan, or an old loan to an old loan, and I can just say, I'm not going to put the credit cards on here. I'm just going to compare their current mortgage that they have today to the new loan. And that's what we recommend that you do, because what it allows you to do is it shows them where they are today. And let's say if this client has a current house with $136,180 balance, and they're going to pay that house off and buy a new home, I like to show them where they are today and where they're going to be with their new purchase. But if you don't want to do that, that's fine. You can leave the current liabilities completely blank, or you can put them in there, and when you come to the borrow page, just shrink that up, and they won't show up anywhere now on your analytics or on your report. You'll be able to compare everything side by side and just compare a 30 to a 15 and a 7, or compare a 30-year with no points to a 30-year with 5 points or 3 points, and compare that to a 7-year ARM or whatever you want to compare it to. These are some of the samples that we did in our call the other day with the managers group. So again, I can do a rent versus own. I just put in rent. That's the current liability. They're paying $1,000 a month, and I want to compare that rent that they're paying today to some different options. They buy with a 5-year ARM, or they buy with a 30-year fixed. First, I've got closing costs. This client's renting, and they have $20,000 saved. If they keep renting, that's their current situation. They have $20,000 left over. If they buy this house with a 5-year ARM, they're going to have $2,750 left over, because they're going to need $12,500 for their down payment, and they're going to need $4,750 for closing. So they're going to need $17,250 altogether. $20,000 is available. Net cash is $2,750. That's what they've got. How about the payment? So this is a good example of rent versus pre-tax versus after-tax. They're paying $1,000 a month in rent. They're going to pay $1,402 to buy this house with a 5-year ARM, or $1,566 to buy this house with a 30-year fixed. But I want to show the after-tax cost, because rent, as we know, is not tax deductible. So when I expand the tax adjustments, it's going to go through and do the tax analytics. Sorry, it's a little slow because I'm sharing desktop and got a bunch of stuff running here. Notice the rent is still rent. Rent's $1,000 either way, but a house payment of $1,402 generates a $277 tax savings, meaning your after-tax cost of homeownership is really $1,125. The $1,566 house is really $1,214 a month after tax. So the gap between renting and owning is not as big when you look at it on a true after-tax basis, $125 and $214. And then, of course, what's really important, if you're going to buy a house, and say you're going to buy a house for 5 years and you think it's going to appreciate at 1% a year, is this worth doing it or not? Well, compared to renting, in 5 years, my house is still, I'm better off by $31,000 with a 5-year ARM, $20,000 with a 30-year fixed. So if a client said, I'm going to be in this house for about 5 years, well, let's just say 7 years, it still runs a simulation. They're $51,131 better off buying this house with a 5-year ARM than they are renting today in their current situation. So again, very fast, very easy to compare and to solve for very complicated mathematics. So let's see. Let me jump back over the chat here, see if any other questions. Oh, good. Here's some more. Okay. How would you compare a lesser down payment with MI versus putting 20% down? Maybe thinking about keeping the extra 10% down in the market, even if they pay a bit more and have the seller pay closing costs. So how do you compare, say, a 20% versus MI? Great question. All right. So let's go over here. Let me just see if I have one that's already close to that filled out. And let's see, purchase different down payments. This one's kind of close. So I come over here to borrow. And so let's say that I just want to compare 20% down to 50% down. And let's also do a 10% down. So you can see again how fast it is to do this. I click 10% down. I'm going to just pull, I'm just going to hit duplicate, which is going to pull this down for me. But I'm going to change the LTV to 90%. All right, so I'm buying a $500,000 house, $500,000 house, and you can see I'm borrowing $400, $250, and $450. So all that stuff looks good. You notice beside each of these boxes here, if it's a purchase, I click this box here, and this allows me to set up all my property taxes, my homeowner's insurance, my mortgage insurance. Is it FHA or not? Is it tax deductible? And I've got no MI here, and obviously I'm going to have no MI here, right? And but down here on this one, because it's a 90% LTV, I'm going to go in. The tax is the same, the homeowners are the same, but I'm going to put in my MI. And let's just say that's 0.47. It's probably a good estimate for 10% MI. So it's going to put in here. It's tax deductible. I'm going to stop that at 78%. So that's going to stop that for me automatically. And I click the save button. So now this has gone through in these three scenarios, and it has made the adjustment. So 2430, 1714, and 2845.37. So now I've got my different payments. So I come down here below, and I say, well, let's look at the cash impact, right? And this is really a cool illustration here, because what we're going to do is I'll just leave the, I'll tell you what, I'll do closing costs for each of 5,000. So watch what's happening here down below. So I've got down payment of 100,000, 250 or 50, closing costs of 5,000, total cash needed 105,000, 255,000 or 55,000. So can I answer the three questions? The first question is, what's the cash at closing impact? Well, the net cash at closing here is I still have 145,000 left over of my available cash. Down here, I'm going to have to come up with another 5,000 to make this work, and here I have 195,000 of my available cash left over. Now that answers the cash at closing. Your next question should be, if this were me, I'd say, well, yeah, but what's the payment going to look like? So I come down here and I say, well, let's look at the payment difference. 2431 with 20% down, 1715 with 50% down, 2845 with 10% down. So my payment difference here, this is my baseline. This is going to save me $716 a month in cash flow. Is it savings? No, I don't know. We don't know if this is a better situation yet. We just know that I have more cash flow. Here, I've got to spend an extra $415 a month. Now this is, again, excuse me for being excited about this, but this is so cool, because for most people, if you stopped right there, ask yourself, which one of these would you choose? Do you have enough information to decide? I know that I could decide that I want this because I have a lot more money left over, but I know I want this because I have a lot more cash flow. So which is really better for me over time? And that's where the last box is so powerful, because I can come over here and let me delete this, because this is one we were playing with before. So let me get it back. Just reset it. So the only way you can compare that is if any of these are options, you have to compare. And you can use the minimum payment, okay, and it'll just put in the minimum payment for each scenario, and this will all work. And this tells me in this situation 50% down is the best option for this client. It's got the green based on these assumptions. Now that's over 7 years. If the client says that this is a They were looking at over 30 years. That may or may not be true. Let's look at over 30. Yep, that's still true over 30 years. 107 versus 43,738. But that's assuming the minimum payments. To really do it right, you want to use our fixed payment, because what fixed payment does, and we worked with a number of industry experts on this in the financial planning industry, is it says the only way you can really help a client make a good decision is to baseline their payment so that they're spending the same amount each month. So in all three of these scenarios, guys, 2431, 1715, or 2485. 2485 is the big, or 2845 is the biggest payment. So if I fix these payments, what this is saying is this is what I'm going to spend each month. Now, I'm going to spend it, but I may not be spending it all in the mortgage. That means I have cash or cash flow that's left over that could go into savings. And all of that is considered down below here. So this is actually saying, look, to be fair, you're going to spend $239.11 over 7 years in each of these scenarios. It's taking into effect the mortgage payments, the MI payments, the whole 9 yards. Your house is going to be worth $575 in all of these scenarios. Your mortgage liabilities are going to be different. $344, $215, $387. Savings. How much do you have in your savings account? You've got $41,624 here, right? So what you can actually do, and this is assuming that they just spend this cash at closing, I can come in here and say, again, this is a more advanced case study, but I want to take the $145,000 that I have left over at closing, and I'm going to make a one-time payment into my savings account, and that puts that $145,000 they have left over in their savings account. Now this client here has got negative $5,000, that's already there, and this guy here has got $195,000. So I'm going to go ahead, to be fair, I'm going to take that $195,000, and I'm going to make, and again, I'm doing this fast, but I just want to show you what you can do with this thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm equalizing everything. I'm making the same payment each month, and even though I'm borrowing a lot more here, I'm borrowing $450,000, I'm showing the $195,000 going into a savings account at closing and growing at 5%. Here I'm showing the leftover cash going and growing. Here there's no cash at closing, but I still have a lot of savings. So in this case, the $716 a month is going into my savings account. All of that is being compared and equalized for you, and I can go through and say which of these is the best now. The 20% down is the best solution for this client over 7 years. You could never do that without this kind of a simulator to be able to say for you, you're better off over this time period going with the 20% down. It's the best solution for you over 7 years. If your time frame is 30 years, is that true? Let's see, 30 years. Bam. 626, 572, 618. Yep, it's still better. So it held up over that entire time period. This is still the best solution for you. So you can do as comprehensive, but let's say you said, I just like to go ahead and show my clients closing costs and payment differences. I can shrink this up as well. Everything's WYSIWYG. Now it's going to only show them their closing cost and their payment difference on their reports and their presentations. So you control all aspects of what you decide to show the client and what you decide to do from a math perspective. But I don't believe anything that you can't illustrate with this tool. Again, we've had 18,000 plans go through the system. So I know I'm running over here, and I want to kind of stop, and I don't see any more questions. So I'm going to stop here, and I encourage you guys to engage. Mark's going to tell you a little bit about the process for how the software is going to be made available to you as a company, and then you have our support. If you have a question and you're working on a case and you're not sure how to do it, that's what Scott's for. You can email him, and he will help you with your case or with questions that you have as you first start getting used to using the program.
That's terrific. Todd, thank you so much. I mean, you really do a great job of running through some scenarios, and it does demonstrate, again, you know, we spent a little more time in the system today and spent a lot of detail, but I think you probably can see, as Scott says, who does a lot of these programs every single day, that after about 2 or 3 of them, what looks like a bit of a process becomes second nature, and you're able to go through these programs and really work with it and get into some very interesting conversations with your clients and solve complex problems for them and show them the results in a confident way to go. within a short period of time and using a very effective presentation tool. This program is something that is available through First Advantage. We have set up a very nice program for you guys. I don't have the ability, I guess, to go back and forth here and talk about it with the muting on, but if you'll, I'm sure you'll be getting some communication from Jim Love and Tim Galligan. I want to thank you guys for being on the call today, and watch for some communication coming from them. Todd, I don't know if you can put up Scott and mine's phone number, but we will be available. You'll get that information again through Jim, so that you'll have the customer support team here also is available to work with you as we start getting used to the system. One other thing I'll mention that we didn't get a chance to touch on is that the training aspects built into the system are quite comprehensive. So there is a full tutorial for every section, every screen, almost every cell within the program. And in addition to that, there's a learning center. It's set up in bite-sized chunks. There's 21 learning videos that you can go through, and when you initially sign on to the system, it trips a 21-day clock. So one of those reminders will come out each day for the first 21 days for you to go through that initial startup phase. Or if you're feeling ambitious, I know Scott went through all 21. I think it took him about 4 hours to go through the entire program in one sitting. So I encourage you. It's a great tool. It's one that can be very effective in both refinance and purchase situations. And just a note, I'm calling in today from Atlantic City, where they're holding the Northeast Regional Conference of the Mortgage Bankers Associations here, and had the opportunity to hear Dave Stevens, the president of the National MBA, and he had some very interesting statistics as part of his presentation, talking about the rate of home ownership formation, which for the first time since the early 2000s are actually exceeding the number of new products or homes coming on the market. So in other words, we have a situation where the supply imbalance that we've had, where there were too many houses and not enough buyers, is very rapidly reversing, and so that's a positive for the market. So just wanted to share a little bit of positive news that I heard today from Dave Stevens and the NBA. And with that, we'll end the call. Thank you for your participation. We really look forward to working with you. Bye for now.